Chapter 1. The Road Begins. A man with a suitcase. The morning that Elias Morrow left his hometown was quiet. The streets still glistened from a night of rain, and the air smelled faintly of iron and earth, a scent that always clung to the small industrial town where he was born. The sun had just begun to climb above the smokestacks, and as he stood on the platform of the old train station, suitcase in hand, he felt the strange pull of two worlds, the one he was leaving behind and the one he had yet to meet. Elias was not a man of remarkable appearance. He was of average height, with a face that seemed both youthful and weary at once. His dark hair was neatly combed, his shoes polished, and his brown leather suitcase, his most prized possession, bore the faint scuffs and scratches of preparation. Inside it were samples of fine brushes and small tins of polish, the tools of his new trade. He was to be a traveling salesman for the Morrow Cleaning Company, a small business started by his late father and now managed by his uncle. As the train's whistle echoed through the station, Elias felt a surge of excitement. This was the moment he had dreamed of for years, the beginning of his journey. He had spent most of his youth watching trains come and go, imagining where they might lead. To him, the world beyond the town limits had always been a map of promise, a vast expanse of opportunity and adventure. But now that he was finally leaving, the weight of the moment pressed heavily on his chest. His mother stood by his side, her hands folded tightly, her eyes fixed on his face as though memorizing it. She had been silent for most of the morning, saying only what was necessary. Her love was quiet and steadfast, the kind that spoke more in looks than in words. "You have everything you need?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Elias nodded. "Everything, remember, Elias," she continued. "Money is important, but so is kindness. People remember kindness longer than they remember a sale." He smiled faintly, wanting to reassure her, though he wasn't sure he could reassure himself. "I'll remember," he said. The train arrived with a hiss of steam, and the sound of its brakes seemed to echo through his bones. With one last embrace, he boarded, found a seat by the window, and waved until the platform and his mother faded from view. The town grew smaller and smaller, until it disappeared completely behind a curtain of morning mist. For the first few miles, Elias watched the landscape roll by in silence, fields, rivers, and distant towns flashing past like pages of an unwritten story. He imagined the people he would meet, the deals he would make, and the success that might finally bring pride to his family name. Yet beneath the excitement was a current of unease. The unknown, while thrilling, was also terrifying. He took out a small notebook from his coat pocket, one he had promised himself to fill with observations from the road. On the first page, he wrote, "October 3rd, 1927. The road begins. I leave behind the familiar for the uncertain. May this journey make me more than I am." Hours later, the train slowed as it approached a bustling city, the first stop of his journey. The station was alive with movement, porters shouting, carriages rattling, vendors calling out their wares. The smell of roasted chestnuts mixed with the sharp scent of coal smoke. Elias stepped onto the platform, feeling the pulse of the city around him. This was a place where fortunes were made and lost, where every street corner seemed to hum with possibility. He made his way to a modest inn near the marketplace, rented a small room, and set out immediately with his suitcase. The first few doors he knocked on belonged to shopkeepers who barely looked up from their counters. Some were polite but uninterested. Others dismissed him before he could finish his introduction. By noon, he had been turned away 5 times. Still, Elias pressed on. His uncle had warned him. The first sale is the hardest. After that, it gets easier. By late afternoon, he found himself standing outside a small cobbler's shop at the end of a narrow street. The shop was dimly lit, filled with the smell of leather and glue. Behind the counter sat an old man with round spectacles and a kind but tired expression. "Good day, sir," Elias began, adjusting his tie nervously. "My name is Elias Morrow. I represent the Morrow Cleaning Company, and I'd like to show you a product that could," the old man interrupted with a smile. "You're new at this, aren't you?" Elias blinked. "Is it that obvious?" The cobbler chuckled. "Only because I used to be a salesman myself before I got tired of the road." He gestured for Elias to continue. "Go on then. Let's see what you've got." Encouraged, Elias opened his suitcase and carefully laid out his brushes and tins of polish. He spoke with growing confidence, explaining the quality of the bristles, the longevity of the polish, and the satisfaction guaranteed with each purchase. The cobbler listened patiently, testing one of the brushes on a pair of worn boots. When he was done, he looked up and nodded approvingly. "Good product. You'll do fine if you keep that honesty in your voice." Elias felt a swell of pride as the man bought 2 brushes and a tin of polish, the first sale of his career. It wasn't a fortune, but it was a beginning. As he left the shop, receipt in hand, he realized that success wasn't always loud or grand. Sometimes it came quietly, in the form of a handshake and a smile from a stranger. That evening, as the city lights flickered on, Elias sat by his window at the inn, the street sounds rising up from below. He took out his notebook again and wrote, "First sale made today. The road is not easy, but it speaks to me. Each door that closes teaches patience. Each smile that greets me gives strength. I begin to understand that the road is not only a place, it is a teacher." Outside, the wind carried the faint rhythm of wheels and footsteps, of countless lives moving in all directions. Elias closed his eyes and listened. Somewhere beyond the horizon lay the next town, the next face, the next lesson. And though he did not know it yet, his journey had already begun to change him.